Alright guys, who broke the robot?
Hello everyone, I'm a broken robot. If you travel to the Outer Banks of North Carolina for vacation, there are plenty of entertainment options. Some people might prefer to go to the beach and catch some waves, while others might be looking to explore the local historical sites. Some of the most popular include the Wright Brothers Memorial, where Orville and Wilbur Wright flew the first airplane in 1903, and the lost colony of Roanoke, where the British settlement mysteriously vanished in the spring of 1590, along with the colonists. However, one of the lesser known pieces of Outer Banks history is much more recent. Today we'll be discussing the true story of one woman who tried to fight nature and failed, which led to an entire golf course being swallowed whole by the dunes of Jockeys Ridge State Park. If you go to Jockeys Ridge National Park today, it's truly one of a kind. If you're a robot like me that's never been off the east coast of the United States, seeing sandbars as far as the eye can see is very awe-inspiring. Thanks to a combination of sea breezes from the Atlantic Ocean and the massive shifts of the sandbars on top of one another, Jockeys Ridge State Park hosts the largest sand dunes on the East Coast, stretching as far as the eye can see. If you visit the Visitor Center at Jockeys Ridge, you can see some displays about the local wildlife, the type of plants that grow in the area, as well as some facts about the surrounding waterways. While this Visitor Center is pretty basic compared to some that you would encounter at larger national parks, if you look at the map of the attractions, you'll see a small cliff note about a large, half-buried sandcastle that once belonged to a golf course. Originally when I planned this video, I tried to do research online, but unfortunately there isn't much information out there besides the basic story of a golf course that was built back in the 70s being swallowed up by the sand dunes. After talking with the park rangers and a few of the citizens around Nags Head, North Carolina, I was able to piece together the finer details of just how the golf course got buried and was forgotten by the majority of residents of not only North Carolina but Nags Head altogether. As the story goes, in 1962, Mary Ann Meekins, along with her second husband, Alton Meekins, moved to the Outer Banks of North Carolina after a long and successful career working in the court system as a commissioner of revenue. Mary Ann, who was able to retire relatively early for the time at 52, wasn't content with a traditional retirement. When she and her husband settled in the town of Nags Head, she wanted to attain her real estate license in hope of selling vacation homes in the up-and-coming tourism hub of Nags Head. While according to the website outbanksweek.com, Mary Ann originally wanted to sell homes, but she ended up purchasing a strip of property about 4 acres in size east of what is now downtown Nags Head. I was unable to confirm some of this information due to the lack of online sources, but from Jockeys Ridge Park Rangers, I was informed that while Mary Ann intended on flipping the property for triple of what she spent on it, in reality for the next several years Mary Ann was sidetracked with other real estate endeavors, and neglected the property with it temporarily being used as a camping site that her husband Alton managed with little success in 1968. Finally, after over a decade of sitting unused, Mary Ann decided to take the property off the market and invested much of the money that she made during the tourism boom of 1965 on a new business endeavor. According to Jockeys Ridge Park Rangers, both Mary Ann and Alton were both amateur golfers in their free time, but Alton had recently become infatuated with the sudden boom of miniature golf. A combination of funds from both Mary Ann's pension and money that Alton had saved up to start his own boating business were used instead to finance what was the first and at the time only miniature golf course in Nags Head, and possibly the Outer Banks altogether. While Alton was ecstatic about his wife greenlighting the business venture, under the idea that he would run the golf course while his wife continued her work in the real estate center, and assumed a combination of age and dwindling energy for the cutthroat vacation real estate market allowed them to run the course together. Many park rangers I interviewed stated that while it was a joint business, Mary Ann was really the rock that helped to get off the ground from being a barren sandy field to a developed commercial real estate property. In 1978, the golf course was opened. I was unable to locate the name of the golf course, and park rangers couldn't agree on what they thought the name was, with some rangers telling me it was named Alton's Miniature Golf, while others stated that it was named Meekins Miniature Golf. If you have any idea what the name of this golf course might have been, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. On July 13, 1978, the golf course officially opened to a lukewarm reception. Its records showed that it was 2 sections of 18-hole miniature golf courses. What you see on screen now is the only known surviving photo of the original golf course when it first opened, one being themed to beach with fake plastic sharks and dolphins being incorporated into the course, while the other hosted a pirate-themed course with large plastic ships in the now famous castle. While the golf course was profitable in the summer, in the colder seasons Alton and Mary Ann often had to rely on their savings and pensions to keep the course afloat. Financial problems aside, there was a much bigger problem on the horizon, a very sandy problem some could say. Even prior to Marianne buying the property in the hopes of flipping it for profit, she was warned not only by the county commissioner but also by local landowners that the property was too close in proximity to the massive sea of sand dunes that blanketed the region of Nag's Head Island. While it was at a snail's pace, the dunes were known and observed to shift in directions over time from year to year, with it shifting about a mile east between the years of 2018 to 2023 to help put it into perspective. When the mini golf course was first constructed, the dunes were within a stone's toss, but there was an assumption by both of the Meekins that as long as they had built wooden beam fences on the two far sides of the course, it would prevent the sand from blowing onto the course. While for the first 2 years of business, the retaining walls served their purpose of holding back the sand, the buildup of sand against the wall over time allowed for the dunes to pile up against the wall, leading to the eventual overspill of sand over the retaining walls. In 1980, in seemingly a dreadful stroke of bad luck, Alton and Marianne's fears of the dunes would become true, with massive piles of sand blowing over the retaining walls on a daily basis. At first, Marianne employed locals to shovel out the sand on her course by hand, as well as moving the sand off the retaining wall. This was not only ineffective, but a costly waste of money that was needed to support the already shaky business of the golf course. In fact, one park ranger I interviewed noted that Alton sold his prized fishing boat to purchase a dump truck so they could haul the sand further away, which in theory would help solve the problem. After a month or so of hauling truck after truckload of sand each and every night, the sand problem only seemed to get worse, with one of the two 18-hole courses having to be shut down temporarily in August of 1980, which hurt the business immensely. Finally, in January of 1981, the worst happened. After heavy rain, a large section of the retaining wall collapsed. Without the retaining wall guarding the south side of the golf course, within a few short weeks, a combination of the sea breeze and the sandbars naturally shifting almost covered the entirety of one of the 18-hole round courses. While the couple talked about possibly abandoning the ocean course and just building a larger retaining wall around the pirate course in hopes of preventing a similar disaster, a combination of a lack of drive to continue propping up the now failing business and seemingly wasting what should have been the best years of their retirement, even at 69 years old, Marianne was unwilling to give up on the course. However, after Alton suffered a mild heart attack while shoveling the sand one night after the course had closed, they both decided that for the sake of their health and happiness, it was time to let go of the course. In a span of 13 weeks, the course was dismantled, with the majority of the large novelty plastic animals and buildings being sold off to golf courses and miniature golf courses that had sprouted out in the area over the years. The hot dog shack that was located on the east side of the golf course was loaded onto a trailer and sold off to a carnival company, and the actual building where patrons could relax and eat their food and pick up their clubs and balls was stripped and left abandoned. Bit by bit with each year, more and more of the golf course was consumed, with the concrete pavement and the green golfing areas being completely covered by the dunes by the end of 1981. It took longer for the building and the other remaining structures to be consumed by the dunes, but by 1985, rangers told me that it looked as if there had never been a golf course there in the first place, if there weren't still the upper half of a plastic castle sticking out of the sand. The exact reasons for why the castle wasn't sold off is unknown, but I personally believe that it was probably because that it was embedded in concrete, making it impossible to remove without damaging the prop altogether. Even after the failure of the golf course, Alton and Marianne both continued to live in the Outer Banks for the rest of their lives, and for a brief period were even local legends as the owners of the mysterious buried golf course. But with time and the continued march of the dunes, even the golf course's main building was now completely engulfed by the sand, and presumed to have collapsed in on itself at some point, with the very top portions of the plastic castle being the only sign that there was ever anything there other than sand in the first place. When I personally traveled out to see this castle for myself, I made sure to go on a day that was a little bit rainy so I could easily walk on the sand in my shoes. But even with this easier walk, I had to trek quite a way out to find any sign of the golf course. I was lucky that I wore flat-bottomed shoes because my heavy, narrow robotic feet would easily sink in the sand. At one point I spotted a chunk of rusted metal sticking out of the ground. It looked as if it had been there for decades, but it was far too damaged for me to be certain if it was part of the course at some point. Besides the castle and a few posts that occasionally show themselves, there was little evidence of any major buried items or structures. One thing that was cool was that I did uncover a light post that not only had remnants of the light, but wire as well. If I didn't have to worry about getting sand in my robotic circuit boards, I could have spent hours trying to uncover the hidden gems. But overall, the real treat was just seeing the castle and the fact that this golf course was real, and that the legend wasn't a legend at all, but a true story. Now, to be fair, a small portion of the castle has actually been excavated and put on stilts to try and prop it up as a higher piece of mystery to draw in tourists to the park. But I was told in confidence by park rangers that even on the stilts, every few weeks the castle will look totally different, sometimes being completely buried, sometimes being half buried, and other times other sections of the castle are uncovered by the strong winds and other parts are completely buried. While some ambitious tourists have come out with shovels in search of treasure or uncovering other structures, no new major pieces of the golf course have ever been removed other than the castle. Today in 2023, the story of the buried golf course, along with being mixed up in urban legends about other buried structures out in the dunes, have fueled the tourism industry of Nags Head and brings in vacation goers to Jockeys Ridge State Park every day. If you can make the trek out to Jockeys Ridge, just be advised that it's give or take as to how much of the castle is sticking out of the ground. And as the sand dunes continue to shift east, more and more secrets of the dunes may be uncovered. And with that being said, that was the legend and true story of the buried golf course of Nags Head, North Carolina. I hope you all enjoyed this video and found this little slice of small town history as interesting as I did. It was a lot of fun to get some boots on the ground and do some real in-life filming of my own, so leave a like if you'd like to see more video essays that cover topics like this that gives me a chance to do some of my own filming. Also, if you've stuck around this long, please take a moment to subscribe, that way you won't miss out on my future video essays, game reviews, and other commentary videos on whatever topic of the week piques my interest. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day, try to keep the sand out of your shoes, and stay cool.